And I want to know, what is it like to get those kind of comments? Like,
You know what? There's something about having that tradition for the everyday people that watch that probably makes them feel a little bit of comfort. And I really like that aspect of the chase. And it makes me realize it's not even about the Deoxys. It could be any card. It could be something else tomorrow. And people still just really want the routine. And I love that because people show up every day. When you have something to watch, something to go to every day, you feel that personal connection. So I guess I understand it.
If this story hit home, follow for more and hear the rest on As the Pokeball Turns.